The night the highway went silent. If you're new here, you might want to hit subscribe, but only if you're brave enough to handle what comes next. Because once you hear this story, you'll never look at a late-night car ride the same way again. The rain had barely started when the call came in. A single vehicle abandoned on the shoulder of Highway 47, engine still running, driver nowhere in sight. At first, officers thought it was another routine roadside breakdown. But as Deputy Mara Collins stepped closer to the car, the hair on her arms rose. The driver's door was open. A purse sat on the front seat, and on the wet asphalt next to the car, a single shoe. A woman's heel. Clean, neatly placed, like someone had taken it off of her. The timestamp on the dash camera showed the engine had been running for almost 40 minutes. Something bad had happened here. The missing woman was Emma Grayson, 27, a paralegal who had left her friend's apartment at 11:18 p.m. She'd texted her roommate that she was getting a quick ride home. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming, but when investigators pulled up her messages, the last text from her phone made the room go still. It wasn't sent to her roommate. It wasn't sent to any friend. It was sent to an unsaved number, a number with no name. At 11:22 p.m. For words, "I'm outside. Come out." That meant someone else, not her friend, had picked her up. Detective Rowan Hale, a man who had seen enough cases to know when something was wrong, stood staring at the abandoned car under the harsh highway lights. Emma's phone wasn't in the vehicle. Neither was her jacket. And there were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no skid marks, no broken glass. It was too clean, too quiet. Predators didn't always leave a mess. The smartest ones left silence. Rowan walked around the car, tracing the reflective puddles with his flashlight. The rain had begun to wash away whatever clues might have been there. A few drops, then a steady drizzle, then a curtain of water that erased footprints faster than he could search for them. But something caught his eye, a faint imprint near the rear bumper. A boot mark, heavy, deep, facing toward the woods. Someone had stood there, watching. He followed the impression to the tree line where the darkness swallowed everything. But the trail dissolved into mud and leaves. Whoever had taken Emma, if she had indeed been taken, knew to move fast the moment the rain started. Back at headquarters, they pulled Emma's digital records. She had no criminal history, no abusive ex, no family disputes, no money issues. She lived a quiet life, worked hard, paid her bills, and went out occasionally with friends. There was nothing, absolutely nothing, to indicate she'd suddenly vanished without a trace. Except one thing. 3 days before she disappeared, Emma had received a strange voicemail from an unknown caller. The audio quality was terrible, muffled, with static covering most of the sound, but one phrase stood out, whispered in a low voice. "You shouldn't have asked." Ask what? Asked who? No one knew. As the investigation widened, Rowan interviewed a friend Emma had visited that night, Lily Parker, a graphic designer who lived in a small apartment complex downtown. Lily seemed shaken but cooperative. She insisted Emma had planned to call a rideshare, not meet with any unknown person. She wouldn't just get into a random car, Lily said, wiping tears from her eyes. She's cautious, too cautious sometimes. But when Rowan asked if Emma had mentioned anything unusual, any recent fear, any concern at all, Lily hesitated. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Well, she did say something weird on Tuesday. She said she felt like someone was following her after work. I told her it was probably nothing, just her imagination. Rowan's jaw tightened. Did she say who? No, she just said it was a dark car, same one she'd seen twice that week. A pattern was forming. Someone had been watching Emma, tracking her, waiting. Surveillance cameras were pulled from every road Emma might have taken. Most showed nothing. A few angles were blocked by construction equipment. One camera was mysteriously offline between 10 p.m. and midnight. But when they examined the footage from the gas station cameras closest to the highway, they caught a glimpse, barely 2 seconds, of a sedan following Emma's route. Lights off, moving slow, matching her speed from behind. The car's plates were unreadable. At 4:16 a.m., Rowan sat in the dim glow of his office lamp, replaying the gas station clip for the 10th time. His instincts were screaming. This was no random disappearance. This was calculated. But then came the moment that would change everything. At sunrise, a hiker called 911 from a wooded trail 2 miles from where Emma's car had been found. Police arrived expecting a body or discarded belongings. They did not expect this. A locked metal box, half buried in the date, placed deliberately between 2 stones. On the lid, scratched violently into the surface, were 4 words, the same 4 words Emma had texted that night. "I'm outside. Come out." When they pried the box open, every investigator stepped back. Inside wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a phone. It wasn't a wallet. It was a stack of printed photographs. All of them of Emma, taken from a distance, taken without her knowing, taken over months. But the last photograph, the one on top, made Rowan's blood freeze. It was taken just hours before she vanished. Emma was standing outside Lily's apartment, and behind her, barely visible in the shadows, was a silhouette of a man, watching her, waiting, smiling. The man in the photograph. Slow it down. Zoom again. Detective Rowan Hale leaned over the forensic screen as the tech enlarged the grainy silhouette from the last photograph in the metal box. But with each zoom, the image dissolved into distortion, a smear of darkness, a hint of a jawline, and an unsettling curve of a smile that seemed carved rather than natural. Whoever he was, he knew how to stay hidden. The rainstorm had passed, but the fog rolling over the woods made the entire morning feel colder, heavier. Crime scene tape snapped in the wind. Officers combed the area inch by inch, searching for footprints, scraps of clothing, tire tracks, anything that would tell them which direction Emma had been taken. But the storm had washed the earth clean, and the woods were silent except for the low hum of distant traffic. As Rowan scanned the ground, his radio crackled. "Detective Hale, you'll want to hear this. We found something." He hurried to the eastern edge of the trail, where an officer held up a plastic evidence bag. Inside was a phone, cracked, muddy, and waterlogged. Emma's phone. They powered it down carefully and sent it for recovery. Rowan's chest tightened. Phones didn't vanish. People didn't vanish. Someone made them vanish. Back at headquarters, the digital forensics team spent 3 hours pulling fragments of data from Emma's damaged device. Most files were corrupted, but not all. Her call log was intact. Her last outgoing call wasn't to Lily, her roommate, or any friend. It was to that same unsaved number, the one she texted at 11:22 p.m., a number that was no longer in service, a burner phone. And the last incoming call on her phone came just minutes before she left Lily's apartment. No caller ID, a 6-second voicemail. The room went still as the audio played. Static, wind, footsteps, and then a man's voice, calm, confident, close to the microphone. "You ready?" Those 2 words hit Rowan like a punch. Ready for what? A meeting? A confrontation? A trap? Lily Parker arrived at the station again that afternoon, visibly shaken. I think I remembered something else," she whispered, sitting across from Rowan. "It might be nothing, but 2 weeks ago, Emma got into this argument with someone over the phone. She didn't tell me who it was, but she said she'd found out something that scared her." "What kind of something?" Rowan asked. Lily shook her head. She wouldn't say, just that it involved someone at her job, a client. Emma worked at the law firm of Barnett and Crew, a tidy corporate building where people in suits traded paperwork and handshakes. Nothing about the office screamed danger until Rowan spoke with Emma's supervisor. "Emma was sharp," the supervisor said. "Too sharp sometimes. She had a habit of digging deeper than she needed to, especially into client histories." "And did she find anything recently?" Rowan pressed. The supervisor hesitated, a long, uncomfortable silence. "She requested sealed case files last week, files she technically wasn't authorized to access. When we asked her why, she said she was verifying a detail for a senior partner." His brow creased, but when we checked, no partner had asked for anything. Rowan's pulse quickened. Emma had uncovered something. Something someone didn't want her to see. He secured a warrant to examine Emma's work computer. Within hours, forensic analysts uncovered a folder buried inside layers of encryption. It held background checks, financial ledgers, and scanned documents tied to a man named Caleb Rourke, a former client of the firm. A man with a long, violent history. A man who had disappeared 5 years ago. A man declared legally dead. Except someone had been using his identity recently. Opening accounts, renting storage units, purchasing burner phones, and one of the accounts had been accessed the same night Emma vanished. Rowan's jaw set like concrete. Find me everything you can on Caleb Rourke. While the team mobilized, Rowan stepped outside for air. The evening sun dipped behind the skyline, turning the city gold, but it felt wrong, too warm for a day filled with this much fear. He replayed the last photograph again in his mind, the way the man stood just behind Emma, half hidden, like he wanted to be seen just enough, but not fully. His phone buzzed. It was the tech lab. We finished restoring the last corrupted image on Emma's phone, the technician said. Detective, you need to come see this. Rowan rushed back inside, heart pounding. On the screen was a blurry photo taken accidentally, probably as Emma was getting into a car. The angle was low, shaky, but in the corner of the frame, reflected in the car window, was a driver's face. Not fully visible, but clear enough. A strong jawline, a faded scar cutting across his right temple. Eyes that didn't look at Emma. They stared directly into the phone camera, like he knew it was recording. Rowan stared. Hard. He recognized that scar. 5 years ago, he'd investigated a man linked to a string of stalking cases. A man who had vanished before he could be arrested. A man believed to be using multiple identities. Caleb Rourke. But before Rowan could process it, an alarm sounded from the hallway. Officers sprinted toward the entrance as dispatch radioed in. Detective Hale. Urgent. Multiple witnesses just reported a black sedan matching the suspect vehicle circling Lily Parker's apartment complex. Lily, Emma's closest friend. The last person to see her alive. Rowan bolted for his car. Whoever took Emma wasn't finished. He was circling back. The ride home. The tires screeched as Detective Rowan Hale swung into Lily Parker's apartment complex. The headlights cut across rows of parked cars, but the black sedan reported by witnesses was nowhere in sight. Officers spread out quickly, knocking on doors, sweeping stairwells, scanning the shadow for any sign of movement. Rowan's pulse hammered in his ears. If Caleb Rourke, or whoever was using that identity now, had circled this place, he was sending a message, and people like him never sent messages without intent. Lily opened her door before he even knocked. Her hands shook violently. He was here, she whispered. I heard a car idling outside my window. When I looked, someone was sitting in the driver's seat, staring up at my floor. I couldn't see his face, but a sudden flash of panic overtook her. Detective, what if he came back for me? Rowan scanned her living room. The blinds were half open. A single lamp illuminated the space. Vulnerable. Exposed. Pack a bag, he said firmly. You're staying at a secure location until we get him. But Lily didn't move. She just stood there, frozen. Lily, Rowan repeated, get your things. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Then her eyes drifted downward to a phone buzzing on the coffee table. An unknown number. No caller ID. Rowan grabbed it before she could. The voicemail icon blinked. He hit play. Static. Wind. Footsteps. Then the same voice from Emma's message. You ready? Lily covered her mouth in horror. Rowan's voice hardened. He's escalating. He wants you scared. Don't give him that. But deep inside, even Rowan felt a cold dread curling in his chest. Because predators escalate right before they strike. Back at headquarters, a breakthrough finally came in. Digital forensics tracked activity on one of the ghost accounts under Caleb Rourke's name, a storage unit registered 3 towns away. Rowan and a tactical team headed straight there. The storage facility was a lonely metal maze near the edge of an industrial district. Bright fluorescent lights hummed as they moved down the narrow aisles, stopping at Unit 409. It was locked with a heavy steel padlock, newer than the surrounding rust. Rowan steadied his breathing. Cut it, he ordered. The bolt snapped with a loud crack. The door rolled upward. Inside was nothing, at least nothing at first glance. Just an empty metal space with a single folding chair in the center. But when Rowan's flashlight swept the floor, his stomach dropped. Scratch marks. Dozens. like someone had tried to claw the concrete. And on the far wall, taped neatly, perfectly aligned, was a photograph of Emma, the same one from the box. But this time, a red X was drawn over her face. Rowan's eyes burned with fury. He turned to leave, but something shimmered near the chair. A phone. Emma's second phone, the one she used only for work. And it was recording. He pressed play. The screen flickered. A dim room. Emma tied to the chair, terrified but alive. Then a man stepped into frame. Face still hidden in shadow. Voice steady. Measured. "You shouldn't have asked," he said, the same whisper from the earlier voicemail. Emma sobbed. "Please, please let me go." He lifted her chin. "You already know too much." The video cut off abruptly. Rowan felt something inside him snap. This wasn't just abduction. This wasn't random. Emma had uncovered something bigger, something someone at the law firm didn't want exposed. Someone who knew Caleb Rourke's identity. Someone who had access to seal files. A collaborator. Maybe even the orchestrator. Rowan stormed back to headquarters and demanded access to the firm's internal employee logins. One name stood out immediately, an attorney who had accessed the same seal files as Emma 3 times the days before she vanished. Eli Barnett, partner at the firm. Wealthy, influential, and the son of the firm's founding attorney. But there was something else, a detail Rowan had missed until now. Eli Barnett had been the defense lawyer for Caleb Rourke years ago, before Rourke disappeared, which meant he knew Caleb, knew his methods, knew his disappearance wasn't a death, but a transformation. Rowan raced to Eli Barnett's house with a team at his back. The home was a modern glass and steel structure on the outskirts of town. Too quiet, too perfect, too calculated. They breached the door. The interior was spotless, elegantly decorated. And then, in the basement, they found another door. Locked, thick, reinforced. Rowan's heart pounded. Open it. The lock splintered. The door swung wide. And inside was Emma. Alive, barely, tied to a chair. Weak, trembling, but breathing. Rowan rushed forward. "Emma, it's okay. You're safe now." But Emma shook her head violently. No, he's not Caleb. You don't understand." Footsteps echoed behind them. Rowan spun around. Standing at the top of the basement stairs was Eli Barnett, calm, unbothered, smiling the same cold smile from the photograph. "You detectives," he said softly, "always chasing the wrong monster." Rowan raised his weapon. "Hands where I can see them." Eli didn't move. Instead, he glanced toward Emma. "She talked too much. You should have let me finish what I started." Officers swarmed him. He didn't resist. Not once. Not a struggle. He surrendered like a man who had already accepted the ending. But as they dragged him out, Emma whispered something that made Rowan's blood turn to ice. Detective, he wasn't working alone. Rowan froze. Then who was? Emma swallowed. The man in the photograph, that wasn't Eli. That was someone else. Rowan stared at her. "Who?" Emma's voice broke. "I don't know his name, but he said something the night he took me." "What did he say?" Her eyes filled with terror. He said, "Don't worry. I'll come back for the others." Rowan's breath caught. "The others?" Emma nodded. "He's done this before." A sudden alarm rang outside as officers shouted. Another black sedan had been spotted speeding away from property. Not Eli's. Someone else's. Someone still out there. Someone who just realized his partner had been caught. Rowan ran outside, but the car was already gone, swallowed by the night. And on the driveway, left deliberately for him, was a note pinned under stone. 4 words. "I'm outside. Come out."